Okay, everybody. This is going to be a really quick update. I've got Michael Wood with Sendero Resources with me here. It's April 3rd. They just released a pretty exciting news release here today. Their first kind of collection of assays has hit the market from their Peñas Negras project in Argentina. 3 different holes from 3 different targets. We're going to focus today on what they pulled out of the ground at Ollita, right? So, I mean, they did have some La Peña and Tamberias holes that they released, but the discovery hole, you know, why we're here today, why we're going to talk today is what they found at Ollita, and obviously what is the focus, if you're following the story, has rapidly become the focus of their campaign. Ollita, just so everybody, you know, so we're on the same page, 256 meters of, I think it was 0.53 grams per ton gold equivalent, and that was a gold dominant system, which was a bit of a surprise to me. But I just thought, just like I say, really briefly, let's get Michael on and he can maybe talk us through these things and maybe answer a couple of questions, because I think the market, I mean, like I said to Michael beforehand here, market never ceases to teach me kind of lessons, and sometimes that's to the negative, and this is an interesting one today because I thought this was an objectively very positive news release, and if you're following along, yeah, the share price has gone down, and so I thought that this is an opportunity for us to have a conversation of what this news release and what these results actually mean. Anyway, my little intro to the way though. Michael, how are you today?
Yeah, no, good, Matthew. No, thanks. Great to give an update, and yeah, like we're very pleased in what we've hit. It's above our target grade. I think we have. I've always said, if and please look at some of my early interviews, and this is our internal target. I think some people thought my target was 0.5% copper equivalent. It is on a dominant system, but very clearly, we've always said on a gold dominant system, it's half a gram gold equivalent. And so for us to be hitting that on the first drill hole into a target over 256 meters from basically, like, you got moraine cover, which is just soil and gravel. It's not hard rock. You don't need a blaster. You can just bulldoze it out of the way. So the moment we get through the moraine cover, we hit 256 meters of mineralization above our target grade. And I think one thing, Matthew, just to really get across is please have a look at the resource grades on the other deposits in Vicuna. And you've got the map here, right? Filo del Sol is the highest grade resource in the district, and it's basically 0.9 gold equivalent. If you report in gold, it's 0.68 copper equivalent, based on the numbers we use today. That's the highest grade, the resource, which is worth almost $3 billion. So, you know, we're not that far off that. I mean, I think, you know, there's maybe some unrealistic expectations from some people that we were going to hit, you know, one of these bonanza holes in our first holes into a target. And, you know, hopefully we do hit a bonanza hole, but we're just exploring. And, you know, if you look at the other resources, we're very much in line with the Jose Maria resource grade, which is basically 0.4 copper equivalent. So very much in line with what we've reported. If we were reporting copper equivalent, we would be in that range, maybe a little bit higher. Caserones mine, the only operating mine in the district, is 0.28 copper with a very small moly credit, 100 ppm of moly. So we're actually substantially above that grade. Las Aladas is about 0.5% copper equivalent. So again, pretty similar to where we're at, a little bit higher, but it's obviously a lot deeper deposit. So I think that's a little bit of what I want to get across to people. Vicuna is about scale. Right here, you have multi-billion ton deposits, and that's what we're after. And look, I think we will find higher grade zones, but this is above our target grade on our first hole into Ollita. So internally, we're very pleased, and I think we just need to educate the market a little bit on the district and the expectations. And I think we also have to look at the aspects of Matthew of the market is the marginal selling, right? And I think, you know, okay, we've had a big sell off at the start of trading today on the 3rd, and it's about 1% of the company that's traded hands, right? It's a relatively small amount of stock. So I think, you know, maybe some people unfortunately had some unrealistic expectations. I think you also need to look at the valuation of the company right now in the low 20 cents. You know, we're back well below 20 million market cap. We have 66 million shares on issue. So at 20 cents, you know, we are 12, 13 million dollars. I think this is an amazing entry point for people that understand what we have. We have 211 square kilometers in the Vicuna district. We've just showed you we've hit a telescope system with continuous mineralization from surface, virtually, if you exclude the moraine, of 256 meters above our target grade. So, yeah, it's junior resource investing, Matthew, like you touch on. It's always going to be volatile. It's always going to be a volatile sector. And, I think there's a lot of quotes on, on every 10 bagger, you always have at least a multiple 50% retracements on those stocks. So, yeah, it's a case of this is not a short-term game. For us, we see this as a multi-year journey to show we have an economic deposit that can be a mine in the near future.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think I want to be objective here, but I mean, I think I'm obviously a believer in your story, and then there's a couple of points that you mentioned that I want to reiterate. I mean, when we talk about, I mean, I just did a research project for Sendero comparing you to Filo in the early days of Filo, and then, as you said, I mean, Filo, I think their overall resource, and we were talking about this beforehand, 0.66% copper equivalent or something. That's after 10, 15 years of complete system mastery and finding these zones and understanding exactly how to drill and where to drill and achieving these long continuous grades. I mean, this is where I was surprised at the sell-off today. I mean, it's your first hole. I mean, yes, it was drilled previously, but unsuccessfully by Eldorado, right? You have come at it with a new perspective and achieved new results based on that. First hole in, 250 meters of 0.53. I thought that we're off to the races here, right? Like I said, the market never ceases to teach me lessons, and sometimes in a rather cruel manner. Maybe touching on Eldorado, right? They did 9,000 meters of mostly RC. Maybe just for the sake of this conversation and context, can you just briefly? I mean, you have demonstrated in one hole results that they never discovered, through a series of campaigns. Can you just, like I say, briefly, just for the context of this conversation, what was different about your approach that allowed you to so rapidly achieve superior results to theirs?
Yeah, and look, I think to give some context, Eldorado Gold, when they drilled our property, they had a massive, massive land package that included Filo, most of the Lundin ground today. They extended massively north, and they were looking in a period that was very different from today, in the mid-1990s. When gold was, I don't even know what it was then, but it was in that $100, $200 an ounce range, probably lower. And this kind of grade didn't work then, for sure. Vicuna was in the middle of nowhere at the top of the Andes. For them to find this kind of grade didn't work. They were focused on obviously shallow drilling, because to make it work, they needed a shallow deposit, and they were looking for gold. And they had a lot of area to cover, and they basically systematically were trying to cover massive amounts of ground. And they did, if you go through the drilling they did in our property, it was very widely spaced over multiple kilometers. And they basically went from, on this map here, actually, Matthew, that you had, they went from what's in our new joint venture ground with the government, Punta Negra and Vicuna, and they went basically southwest towards Cervere South with a pretty unsystematic, widely done area. Now, they did do more systematic drilling at Lagita. That was the one area they really got their teeth into and did a pretty systematic drill program. But for them back then, it didn't work, right? The grade they were getting in the first kind of 50 to 100 meters, which is what they were mainly focused on the holes, was too low for them back in the mid-90s. And they walked away. And, Gary Norton, who's a world-famous geologist, founder of Eldorado and Beamer back in the day, he's been fantastic, spoke to me and the team and told us what their views were. And, said, I always loved this property, but it was very different back then. And he said to me, we walked away mainly because we went to Turkey. They had a slam dunk in Turkey where they found 12 million ounces. So, look, it was drilled, but 30 years ago, right? It's not been drilled in modern times. Anglo-American did a very basic drill program at the western flank from Cervere South to Cervere North, where they put in 5 holes, widely spaced holes. And very, very small program for Anglo-American, never really got resources or focus as an Anglo-American exploration program. And that's it, right? And then it's been sitting there. So, we've done a lot of prep work, Matthew. Sendero has been going since March 2021, over 3 years now as a company. We've been prepping away for this drilling. And we're really pleased with this first hole, and we think there's better to come as well. We really do. We expect particularly the ones in the northern part of Lagita will be slightly higher grade. I don't think they're going to be bonanza grade. I mean, hopefully they are. But we do expect the grade will be ticking up in the northern part of the zone. But let's wait and see, right? Let's wait and see. But I think internally we're very pleased. We've hit 256 meters above our target grade from surface. And another important point, Matthew, to point out is we lost it not because we went out the bottom of the system, but because we hit a post-mineral fault zone, right? An extensive post-mineral fault zone. We drilled into it for 110 meters and stopped on the advice of the drill contractor that we're gonna snap the rod, right? And that would cost us in the region to $200,000 to $250,000, which for obviously a small company like ours is not a risk we want to be taking. So that's also an angle that we hit great mineralization from surface, and we only lost it not because we went at the bottom of the system, but because we hit an extensive post-mineral fault zone.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, I have up the assay tables here from, so you see La Peña and Tiberias there on the right, if I was kind of 0.22 grams per ton each there, right? So, a little bit of smoke, but not obviously not the focus, and obviously not the focus of the company from here on out. But, on the left-hand side here, right, it is gold dominant, right? I mean, a little bit of moly kicked in there and, 0.1, 0.2% copper scattered around, but a gold dominant system. I mean, was that a surprise to you? Is that what you were anticipating to come out of this? Or how does that factor into your pre-drill expectations?
Well, I think we, you can see even down at, 250 down to 320, it's still gold dominant. I think we were pretty confident it was gold dominant at the top from the historic drilling. But I think we may be a little bit surprised it remained gold dominant. I mean, you can see there's a nice intercept there, 8 meters of 0.43 copper coming in later in the hole, but still more gold dominant. Right? You've got 4.44 gold and 2.5 grams of silver in that. So I mean, I think the moly. Actually, I don't think we expected moly. And okay, it's not a massive moly grade, but Caserone's mine is mining off a slightly high grade, 100 ppm is their resource on that moly. So interesting to see that moly angle, I think what we want to learn as well is the dating of these phases. So already sent off age dating on the two phases of porphyry mineralization, the epithermal mineralization, to understand, is it similar aging to the stuff in Vicuna, or is it more like the Maricunga further north? We really don't know, but Maricunga is gold dominant, right? So that's a little bit of a clue that maybe. Actually, we're looking at similar aged stuff to some of the Maricunga gold-rich porphyries, but we really don't know at this phase. And I think there's definitely a good chance as we go deeper, it becomes copper dominant. I mean, your article, Matthew, actually on Philo, even when they did the spin-off, they already had a resource on it. Those initial headline numbers were gold headline numbers at the top of that system. So. It's interesting. I mean, gold is good. Right? Gold is very good. You make doré. It's actually easier to process and transport from here. You wouldn't be shipping concentrate. You can just make doré on site and ship those doré bars. So it'll be fascinating to see how it unfolds as we understand the system in more depth. But I think the key thing is this is a major system. These telescopes, you got high sulfidation epithermal in a lithocap form. Lithocaps can be very large, right? Lithocaps can be multiple square kilometers. When they're being affected by high sulfidation state mineralization, it's a good sign. And when you got buried porphyries below, it's a good sign that you can get extensive lithocaps. So that's a great kind of structure for a very good economic deposit. In the first kind of 200-300 meters is what we're aiming for. And you've just jumped to the slide here. So we're focused in this triangle structure. You can see that the drill holes we've done today and on drill hole 7 right now. And building up in this triangle structure where we believe it's a joining of the faulting, the northeast, northwest. We believe it's been a conduit for the hydrothermal fluids to flow up into a bigger advanced gillette lithocap. And you can see great alteration to the east of the faulting here. There's very clear, obvious advanced gillette alteration, these lidosomes to the east that we want to drill test definitely next season. And we believe could be an extensive lithocap, but just the area we're drilling in, about 600 meters by 600 meters, is substantial. You can do the maths on that, Matthew. 600, 250 times 2.5 is 225 million tons right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you say, scale, right? And it's not. I mean, it's economic. I mean, it's not a deposit yet, but I mean, it's clearly on the path to what could be economic grade, right? It's, with a lot of variables in play there. And so, I mean, this is where, like I say, this is the part where I try to be critical and objective, because when the news release came out, you called your shot. It was what I was expecting or what I was hoping to see. Very first drill, right? This is not, like you say, hole 41. This is not 10, 20 holes in, very first hole. How often do you see 250 meters of half a gram on the very first hole? Yes, there's historical drilling to go off of, but still, it was a success. And so to see you open down, was a surprise to me. And so, I know that, CEO of these companies are your baby. And so sometimes it's hard for you guys, especially because you are so involved and so committed to try to make sense of things sometimes. But I mean, why the sell-off? From your perspective, like you kind of said, maybe it's a lack of understanding or maybe heightened expectations that were maybe unfair in terms of what they were expecting from one hole. I mean, is it being held hostage for a financing? I mean, what do you see as potential reasons why what I thought, and you said internally you guys are excited, and I was excited when I saw it, and you're down 30%. How do you make sense of that?
It's hard to, Matthew. I think you just have to roll with the situation, and my job is now to get out the narrative and explain that this is what we're looking for and the scale potential, and this is in line with grade in the district. Right? And I think that's the thing. My best guess is people are disappointed on the grade, and they're expecting higher grade. I think that's if I had to pinpoint an explanation for the sell-off, it's that it can't be the width. I mean, you've hit 250 meters of continuous mineralization. That's a big interval. I think also we're in a district, right? And I think it's a good point to point out. If we're in the middle of nowhere with no infrastructure in place, it's slightly different. But definitely the bar for us to discover an economic deposit is lower where we are because we're in a developing mineral district. I think that's also something to understand. But yeah, I think it's most likely the grade, Matthew. I think people probably feel this is an economic grade, and I think it's our job to show them that it is. This is what we're looking for, and we feel that we can make this work already on this kind of grade, on this kind of scale, 6'6", 600 by 600 by 250, even smaller than that, it would work. So yeah, it's a process, Matthew. I think it's disappointing for sure, but it's now. I'll talk to as many people as I can and explain the narrative from our side, and this is what we're looking for. This is the grade we were expecting, and hopefully we can show high grade pockets as we produce more holes over the next few weeks / months, and we move forward. And our market cap right now at 20 cents, I think we're trading at as we speak, is it's 12-13 million market cap, which I think is a pretty good entry point for the stock. I mean, I thought it was a good entry point at 20 to 25 million. I still do. I think, once people start to understand that, this is a real deposit and it has the legs to be economic, then we'll start to get valuation appreciation pretty substantially.
Well, and so let's talk about, you mentioned, a few different holes that are yet to come. That your initial plan was to be flexible. You just put one into each target until you find the goods. And here we are at Ollita, you found the goods. So, hole 3, hole 4, hole 5, hole 6, hole 7. So you're suddenly 5 holes into this, I guess. So it's kind of a twofold question, into 5 holes into Ollita, rather. Sort of a twofold question. Is hole 7 then of this campaign the end of the campaign, or are there more holes to drill yet before the end of the season? And then part 2 to that is, when can we start to expect to see more results back from the lab, more assays?
Yeah, sure. And hopefully we get one more hole in. We're now April 3rd. I think we're comfortable to drill till mid-April. It is the weather conditions are definitely deteriorating up there. It's an El Nino year, so already some very heavy rains and some electric storms. So we definitely aren't going to take any risks getting people or equipment stuck. Definitely, we need to be offsite by the end of April. That was always our plan. So we'll see if hopefully we can get one more hole in after this. We'll have to see. And assays, as soon as we can. I think we always, I think there's been a lot of chatter. I've seen it, that we've been delaying these assays. We didn't get back the final assays of hole 3 until last Thursday, the Thursday before Good Friday, right? And we've got them out, 2 business days after that. So, we've got out as soon as we can. We're very happy with this. And unfortunately, narrative spreads in the world, particularly in a lot of these chat rooms that are very popular. So we'll get out as soon as we can. We want to inform the investors what we're seeing here at Ollita. We've ruined something meaningful. And I think particularly in the northern zone, Matthew, if you look at this image here, 5 and 6, we're seeing a thicker block of the lithocap up there, right? Substantially thick. If you look where we've got about 70 meters of it. Up there, it's multiple 100 meters. So I think we're very positive on those holes. I think we're very positive on all of them. I think we're going to hit at least this grade, hopefully better, on the remaining holes here. And that in itself, I think, will also help, not only stabilize, but re-rate the stock and start for people to see the value in this target alone, let alone the other targets that we have on the property here in a world famous developing mining district.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one last question here for you, Michael, and I'll switch over here because I think I appreciated the transparency of what you provided here on the topic of kind of bull boards or chat boards, and sometimes you never know who's behind the anonymous handles and if they're operating in good faith or what their angle is, right? But I had a chuckle because someone. And this is, to me, transparently wrong, so I wanted to say that before I throw this accusation out. They called it the most egregious example of smearing they'd ever seen, which I think is just kind of, like I say, almost a bad joke in terms of this, because right in the news release, as I brought up here, you have your gradation, right? You gave us the grade all through the whole, and I mean, it's just, wrong, right? I mean, so do you just want to talk about what you saw in terms of consistency of mineralization, or maybe respond to that accusation such as it is?
Well, I think there's somebody that doesn't understand what smearing is, because you can see this is consistent mineralization. You've got two spikes in the whole hole. You got one gold spike and one copper spike. So I don't think not much to say on that comment. And like we've showed you the whole hole. We've showed you how consistent it is. We've showed you how it's increasing at depth in the porphyry before we lose it. And beautiful to see geologically. Very consistent mineralization. So yeah, very happy. I mean, you always want high grade, right? I think that's the case, but this is above our target. This we believe is economic grade in the situation we are. And so fantastic. We'll move forward.
Yeah, no, I mean, very consistent. There's no barren spots that we have to worry about in terms of dilution, in terms of having to call it waste rock, right? I mean, there's lots of that. I mean, it's you can't tell now, but I mean, a lot of that looks like it would be above some sort of theoretical economic cutoff. And first hole in. I wanted to keep this short and sweet. Any thoughts that you wanted to touch on before we say goodbye, Michael?
No, thanks, Matthew. Great to update investors, and please, any questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and don't let the price drive your thoughts, right? I think that's the key thing in junior markets, that people, unfortunately, their mind change is based on the price. The price drives the narrative, right? And I think that's what's been seen this morning, unfortunately, in our share price, whether it's some manipulation or whether it's just people who decided this is not for them and then prefer to put their money elsewhere, fine. But like we touched on, it's a very small percentage of the company that's changed hands for now. And I think as the narrative gets out and people understand that this is good grade where we are, and in the circumstances it's most likely economic grade to mine, the narrative and the valuation will change.
Yeah, great. Michael Wood, Managing Director of Sendero Resources. First hole out here of Ollita looks pretty darn good, and more to come. We'll see more assays in the coming weeks here. So, Michael, thank you for your time, and maybe we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew.